Is it crazy to think that Mike McCarthy could get an extension at the end of all of this, Sean? You think that's crazy?
Yes. Despite what Jerry Jones told us last week.
Not just Jerry Jones, a couple other people. National writer for Fox Sports, a former revered Cowboys head coach. A lot of people weighed in on this now. And
Tom Brady, Bill Belichick, all of them say Mike McCarthy's really, really good. They're making it sound like if the Cowboys move off of McCarthy, you're getting rid of a top 5, at worst, top 10 coach. Is it making any of you rethink that when you hear Belichick, Brady say it? I mean, John Machota transcribed the quote from Brady during the game when he's sitting there just praising him. I'll get the exact quote for you right now. This is during the Giant win on Thanksgiving. Coach McCarthy is a great coach. His 18th season as a head coach, great leader of men. Not only is a play caller, he's a developer of players, of talent, of quarterbacks. He's got a very consistent personality to him. He won in Green Bay. He's got a championship DNA. I think he's one of the better coaches in the NFL. Absolutely. And if RJ Choppy was sitting here, and he'll be back tomorrow, he would say, I agree. I think this is an example of we are too far in the forest. And look at Matt Eberflus. Look at the time management blunders that happened throughout the league yesterday. Mike Tomlin had a humongous problem yesterday in the Steelers win over the Bengals. I'm like, are you doing something? Are you going to get something going here? Timeout, clock mismanagement. And we just cover this team so much and we're so close, we pick apart our head coaches and we'd be doing it the same with anyone else. That would be RJ's argument, and I don't completely dismiss it.
With clock management and things like that, yes, maybe. I think for those who have felt like we need a change.
Yeah.
Like those people in the building who think that, which I mean, you've got so many different perspectives and opinions. In every building, I'm sure there's somebody who thinks they need a change. There are people who want Mike Tomlin out, I'm sure, in Pittsburgh. There are people who want Kyle Shanahan out in San Francisco. Sean McVay out in LA. Like, these are all thoughts that come along. So it's not any sort of breaking news to think maybe there'd be people who think that. But I think those people who think that probably think, yeah, we were 12-5. We feel like we should have been 14-3 some of those years. Like, we should have been at the top. We should have been competing with Kansas City at that level. Then we were a step below because of that. We're not given an advantage.
They're not given an advantage. They don't beat quality teams over 500. They haven't sniffed playoff success compared to where Jason Garrett got you. I think there needs to be a turnover.
Well, one person who doesn't agree with you is Ralph Vacchiano over at Fox Sports, former Giants beat writer for, I think he was at Daily News for years, but he is now a national writer covering the NFC East specifically. And he said, he had an article the other day, a blueprint for fixing the Dallas Cowboys mess in time for the 2025 season. Because that's really where I think a lot of people are at right now. Like, let's just make sure it's a quick bounce back. Like, let's make sure we're not spiraling in this for a couple of years. So he's got a few different points that he thinks will get them set on the right track. 4 to be exact. Here's the first one. Extend Mike McCarthy. He says, don't impulsively fire Mike McCarthy is the number one agenda item this offseason. He said, this won't be a popular decision among Cowboys fans, but there are good reasons to renew his contract after the season. He points to the 12-5 in 3 straight years, says this season wasn't all his fault. He was hurt by an offseason of inactivity, and then there was a bunch of injuries. Says he's a Super Bowl winning head coach who is liked by his players, and despite their playoff struggles, he's coached the Cowboys to their best 3-year run by far since their last Super Bowl era 30 years ago. It would be crazy to boot someone that successful after one bad injury-plagued year. So that's the first thought there from Ralph Vacchiano.
Disagree.
Number 2, give Micah Parsons his blockbuster contract extension before free agency starts. Says Jones has a counterproductive habit of waiting until the very last minute to re-sign his best players, then giving them the deal he could have given them months earlier. There's no logic to that because the price never goes down. It just ties up cap space that could be spent elsewhere. And I gotta explain something real quick. First off, I think there's been enough questions about Micah's temperament and fit and different things like that I don't think that necessarily his contract is the one you rush headlong into getting done as early as possible. The other thing is,
why?
Because I just think there's
that tells me that you would have to give great consideration to not extending him here.
I think that if you look at this and say we are financially strapped for an extended period of time and we may need a rebuild, that might be your best chip to try and rebuild with cheap players.
Yeah, but they're not going to.
But in general, I'm talking about, like, if we're talking about creating a blueprint that for success, then I would not say you rush into paying that. By the way, this is something that I explained to somebody recently.
Do you think they have a thought of that over there?
Of moving him?
Yeah.
No, I don't think the biggest decision makers do.
You don't think it's like a 70-30,
no,
80-20?
Like, I'm sure there are people over there who they're like, well, if I was in charge, I would be looking at this. But the people who are in charge, no. But I think it's important to. Somebody had asked me recently, it was when we were in Washington, a fan had asked me, they said, why do they always wait to pay contracts? Why do they do that? And I was like, look, let me explain where they come from in terms of why they think it's financially savvy to do it. And when they had heard it, they're like, I haven't heard you explain it like that before, so I should probably explain it here. They look at it as, which saves us more money? If we would have paid Dak, a year ago, for instance, $60 million, like, we're probably paying him close to $60 million. It's not, it's you save a couple million, maybe you get it done for 56 or something like that.
Yeah.
So which is more valuable? That or continuing to play out on our books a $40 million contract for an extra year where we're not paying out 56 or 50. They view it as prices are always going up. So because prices are always going up, it'll always reset no matter what. So whenever we sign the deal, it's not like we're going to get stuck at the top of the market. And the way we view it as, we're saving much more money by keeping just a $40 million contract on the books instead of paying a year earlier to get him to a number we're probably going to pay anyway.
I get that.
And so that's kind of been their philosophy. So similar to Micah, they would probably look at it and say, we'd rather pay the fifth-year option and have him play that out a little bit before we go throwing him $40 million or whatever it would be for a player at defensive end.
I also think we need to remember the probability that, like, the player sometimes can cause the delays.
Sure.
CeeDee Lamb, there was a thought that Lamb was like, don't even send anything over. I'm not signing anything unless it tops Jefferson, but I want to see what Jefferson gets.
Yeah.
I want to see what Jamar gets. So that could have been like, let Lawrence and who are the other quarterback dominoes this offseason? Lawrence. Tua.
Yeah.
Let those dominoes fall so I can easily surpass them because I'm better than them. That could have been the delay.
Yeah, it's like when you see an eBay auction or something. Like, hey, we have an auction here where you can bid on things, but there also is a buy it now price. You can buy Dak's free agency now, but it's going to be at a ridiculous price. That's just like, here's the number. You buy it here. Otherwise, we'll just negotiate and wait. And so that's kind of where they're at. But that's the Cowboys' thought process on why they fight. It's not just. There is a method to the madness, even if people disagree with it, and I disagree with it. That's still their thought process as to why they believe it's financially sensible to do it that way. And then the third point here, restructure some contracts to create cap space to be real players in free agency. I don't think anybody's clamoring for them to be real players in free agency like that. They didn't.
I am.
Did you but you didn't? I felt like
I want
most
an
people said
all-out Black Friday big time shopping spree.
Outside of for content. Like, do you think that it's something where, like, they're better if they go get 5 veteran high-priced free agents? Because the reality is half of those are probably missing and handcuffing you.
Yeah, I think they need to spend big and replenish.
I'm fine if they do the Cook deals and the Gilmore deals. If they're in as bad of financial straits as they keep talking about, you can't restructure again. And then the fourth point, one I don't disagree with,
because
in general.
This whole, you don't take steps backwards when you re-sign Dak, Lamb, and Micah, and you have Diggs. That's not a rebuild.
Yeah.
It just isn't. Give me another team who paid that to their stars with the age where you're like, no, we're not supposed to add to this to try to be contenders now.
Right.
It doesn't make zero sense.
Yeah. Number 4, get this team a standout running back. I don't mind if you feel you want to improve running back. Again, I mentioned earlier, I think Dowdle's a legit starter, but I don't think anybody's hating him for that.
And this is Jerry on with Alec and James after the Giants win. They asked him, is Rico an RB1?
Well, yes, I do. And to me, the only question that about Rico and his ability to carry the ball at the highest level in the NFL. He's violent when he runs. The only question about it has been his ability to overcome injury his first couple of years, and those are unfortunate, and it's really the down time of a football player's time is dealing with an injury. And he's been able to stay consistently healthy this year. And more importantly is our blocking up front. And we had guys that aren't necessarily the starters for this team playing yesterday in two different places. And that's pretty remarkable that we were able to have the run game work as well as it did.
Look, I think that's something that is correct, is that Dowdle's shown himself that he can do it. The biggest problem is just it is the injury question. He's gotten hurt so many different times throughout his career, and he's a physical runner. Like, he does look for contact. He'll bounce off of it. He likes to run between the tackles. So that's a question in the long term, is the idea of, can he stay healthy enough? And that's got to factor into if you think he can be a running back one, or what you need to supplement behind him. Now we probably don't have time for the Jimmy cut here because that one's longer and has discussion behind it, but we'll get to that later. So Jimmy Johnson thinks kind of similarly, though, as to what Ralph Vacchiano does.
What percentage do you think McCarthy's back?
1%.
Okay.
Something like that. I think there's a better chance they would
more of a chance that Micah doesn't get extended.
Yeah, a better chance they would trade Mike, I think, than extend Mike. I think there's a better chance they would extend Mike Zimmer than Mike McCarthy.